the glasses. Well, and we have Mike, our secretary, and we have our treasurer, Deb, in the back. Perfect. So what we do here is we start off with the icebreaker. The goal is to introduce your name to your fellow neighbor and answer the question. It's 3 minutes, and it's always a random question. So here's the question this month. The question's gonna be, the Democratic Party, for some reason, has a crisis with donkeys. Donkeys are biting people, and they say, we gotta rebrand our donkey. What animal do you think represents the Democratic Party best? Talk to your neighbors and think about it. All right, 3 minutes.
I just like Aaron. Elephants on the lane and when I was in undergraduate, and we were using a donkey. I was put in charge of one year. So I changed it into a dog park. Yeah, I was gonna have I like her. I like her. It was like a donkey in a circle. So you put the donkey and put it in the galloping. It was like a head on galloping. And before that, like a donkey. When I was up there, kind of like, oh, who's our donkey? And I said, oh, I like that idea. And this is we are. It doesn't represent, where we're at. I mean, it tells me like, I think that's before us, not what I know they do that. That was brilliant too. Only because, yeah, I named about. Yeah. Oh, yes. Because I was not being our opposition is not they are and there's no one place I can buy coffee that was they over advertise people otherwise they don't fund it that way. They fund the minority opposition. They heard it's terrible.
So hopefully we got some good animals coming around. All right, so let's do this. Before we have our executive speak, let's have Deb give a quick treasurer's report.
We've got the treasurer's report.
Hello. And that was a lively question. In our checking account, we have $4,939.27. And in our savings account, which is the scholarship fund, we have $292.59.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I'd like to move that we allocate $500 from our checking account into the scholarship fund to help kickstart it. so that we have the funds to award scholarships this year.
And for those who are not aware, what the scholarship is, it is for a high school senior, either in Clawson or Royal Oak, who is currently a senior, that they can do secondary education, they can do training, any opportunity, even if it's activism. So we have a deadline for that for May 15th, but we try to do it each year. So that will put 500. Do we have a second?
I have a second because this will push the fund forward and it's how we kick it off every year. Second.
Cool. All right, any discussion, any concerns before we vote? All right, can I get the ayes?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, 500 moved to the scholarship. Thank you so much. All right, so we're very, very excited. We're gonna kick it off with County Executive Dave Holzer. Big round of applause.
Oh my God, thank you. It's so good to be here. I know, over here. Well, good morning, Royal Oak.
Good morning.
It is great to be here. It is great to see you. On a personal level, it's wonderful to be here because this club has been so supportive of me. Both when I was mayor of Ferndale all those years, your lovely neighbor, and as county executive, you've been so supportive and helpful, and I thank you. It's also one of my favorite clubs to go to because, and probably over the last year, I think I've been to every dumb club in the county, and I don't play favorites now because, you know, it's a big county and I represent everyone. But this club is seriously the most active, the most engaged, the quality of speakers minus what you have today, but in general is really good. You guys are just really active in your communities and just influential in your community. So it's always a privilege to come and speak with you. So I guess I want to speak a little bit about county government because I think you all know what's happening at the federal level, and it's huge. This is a critical election. I'm not going to say it's the most important election in our lifetime, but damn, it's probably close, right? I tend to think of 2020 as being the most important because it was really important to get rid of that guy. But you know, when you think of keeping him the hell out of the White House, it's, you know, just as important, right? So it's critical. We also know that it's going to be more challenging this year. There are more headwinds for Democrats and others, a lot of stuff going on, and the president's polling in Michigan isn't what it was 4 years ago. And so there's a lot of work to make sure that we get Democrats up and down the ballot, and especially starting with the White House all the way down to the county and local levels important. But I want to talk to you a little bit just about county government and why that's important this year, and maybe some things that you can share with your neighbors and friends about what's going on at the county, or why should people care about what's going on at the county. Because the county is often sort of that invisible level of government that people don't always understand. This group probably more than any other does understand it because Dave Woodward is the chair of our board. And so Dave, I know, keeps you well apprised of the things that we're doing, right? And I have to say, even though I don't see Dave here, he's normally here, but it's been so more than helpful. Just, it's been a blessing for me that Dave is the chair. I've known Dave a long time. I respect Dave as a public servant and also as a friend. So we've worked really closely together on the things that we're working on in Oakland County. So this is a year where the entire county government is up for election. That means every county commissioner. It means all of the countywide electeds. So in addition to myself as county executive, Robert Wittenberg, our treasurer, Karen McDonald, our prosecutor, Jim Nash, our water resource commissioner, Lisa Brown, our clerk, and then the one office that we don't currently possess is the sheriff. So those 6 offices are also up this year. And it's also extra important this year, county government and voting on county government, because the legislature made a change last year, and so they changed the length of term for county commissioners from 2 years to 4 years. So the county commission that I get this year, I'm going to have for 4 years. So if somehow, yeah, well, we're going to clap, but we got to make sure that it stays in Democratic hands. Because if for some reason the Republicans manage to flip the commission, then all the things that I'm going to tell you we're doing are going to get stopped in their tracks. And so it's really important that, I know you're going to support Dave Woodward, but it's really important that across the county we make sure that our county commissioners get reelected. And by the way, Dave Woodward isn't the only county commissioner representing this amazing city. Penny Lubes, our outstanding commissioner, who I got to know when she was mayor of Clawson and I was mayor of Ferndale, and I could just tell you how much I love Penny and how smart and pragmatic and effective she's been on the commission as well. So we got to bring Penny back and the rest of our commissioners. So why is it important? Maybe over the last 4 years, if there's one silver lining to COVID, it's that people realize, oh, well, I guess I know one thing the county does now. They run the health department, right? So at least people now understand one major function of county government is the health department. But even there's a big difference between having Democrats in charge and Republicans. And it starts with the fact that with Democrats in charge, we actually trusted the science and listened to the science. I didn't know exactly what an epidemiologist was 5 years ago, but I sure as hell know what one is now. And I listened to them. They are amazing folks. We have 4 of them on staff. We were so fortunate. And we did everything we could to help keep people safe and alive, frankly, during COVID. And I think that's a huge difference. Not only that, but we made sure that no one was left behind. And I had people on Brooks's staff who were still there tell me, wow, there are things you're doing that we would not have thought of doing. We made sure homeless people had a shelter and food to go to, because a lot of the shelters get their food from churches and local organizations that couldn't provide those meals. So we made sure that homeless shelters had meals and people had places to stay. So everyone from homeless people to small businesses to nonprofits. I think we were the only county in the state that actually gave grants to nonprofits because they were struggling as much as small businesses were. So we really reached out to make sure that in addition to following the science on the health side, that from an economic side, we made sure that no one was left behind, because we're Democrats. We care about people and we want to make sure that everyone has what they need to survive that pandemic. So folks are still aware of that in terms of what the county does. But I just want to share with you some of the things that we've done as a county that you can say to your friends when they say, what difference does it matter if you're like Coulter or the other guy, or Lisa or the other guy, the other person, or Dave Woodward, because it does make a difference. It's been, I think, a radical difference in the progressive way that we've been leading Oakland County compared to the way that Brooks Patterson and his friends ran it before. But first of all, one thing has remained the same, and I want to emphasize that because this has been baked into a lot of people's heads over the years when Brooks was the executive, and that is, we have a AAA bond rating. We are a fiscally responsible county. Okay, yep, I get it, that's fine. Guess what? 5 years later, we still have the AAA bond rating, and we still have a 3-year balanced budget. We still have excellent budgeting practices. The Democrats didn't screw it up like we're supposed to say what. And on top of that, all 5 of the budgets that I presented to Dave and the board have passed with bipartisan support. We work across the aisle when people are reasonable and willing to work with us. We disagree with them where we have to, but we've done that and we've kept that intact. Okay, so those fears, I hope, are well put to bed. But there's a big difference in the way that we approach the AAA bond rating and the way that my predecessor did. And that is, I think that Brooks and his team looked at that as the goal. You get the AAA and then we can prove to everybody that we're running things right. We don't look at it that way. To me, the AAA is nothing more, and a good budget and good budgeting practices is nothing more than the foundation that you can build on to lean in on the issues that help support people and that we care about, right? So it's the thing that allows you to actually have a progressive government, right? It's not the goal in itself, and that's really how we look at it. So some of the things that we've done, first of all, we believe, because we believe in science, that climate change is real, and that it's having a dramatic effect on us. And, as Democrats, we've known that for decades, but it apparently, people needed to see the weather start changing, or some people needed to see the weather actually start changing to believe it. Well, I think people are seeing that now, and there's real effects of climate change. And so for the first time, it's one of the first new positions I created in Oakland County was a sustainability planner. And yeah. And we now have a path forward to be carbon neutral as a county by 2050 and as a county campus by 2030. And we're taking aggressive steps and investments to make sure that Oakland County, the wealthiest county in Michigan, actually is leaning in and leading on climate change in Michigan. And that I'm really, really proud of. The second position I created, and and I don't want this to sound like I created a lot of positions, because like I said, we kept the budget good, but within the framework of the budget, we created another position. And this really was, you know, the county commission brought this to me, you know, in my first 2 weeks on the job. We said, Dave, we need a DEI officer. We need someone who's looking at the work that Oakland County does through an equity lens, not an equal lens like Brooks used to do. Brooks would say every city, and you know, there's 62 cities, villages, and townships in Oakland County. Every city gets the same, treat everybody the same, and then everything's equal and nobody can complain. But we know that cities like Pontiac and Hazel Park and Southfield, they have different needs, they're different communities than West Bloomfield or Birmingham, not to pick on any of those. But the way you deliver services there, the needs they have are very, very different. So instead of just talking about Oakland County as this big monolith, successful, prosperous county that doesn't need anything, we said, no, we're going to do a deeper dive into our individual communities. And we're going to look at what they need separate from what other communities might need. And that's what that DEI lens is to me. And I know that Republicans have made a huge partisan issue over DEI, and they're trying to demonize it, just like they demonize everything else, whether it's trans people or you name it, right? But DEI to us simply means we're going to look at every program we offer, every service we do, and make sure, is the access to those services fair and equitable? And if they're not, how do we make it more accessible to people in different communities? People in Holly can't access the services the way people in Pontiac do, where our campus is, for instance, right? So looking at it through that lens, and I think because we're all Democrats here, we understand the importance of that. We've discovered some major things. One thing it reinforced for me is that transportation is an equity issue. I ran for office the first time back in 2002. I actually represented the south end of Royal Oak on the county commission back then. And I ran on mass transit. That Metro Detroit was the only large region in the country that didn't have mass transit and major public transportation systems, and it wasn't fair. And I've been screaming about this for 20 years. But now I also talk about it through that equity lens, that it's important that wherever you are in the county and whatever community you're from, wherever you're trying to go, you have an opportunity to get there without a car. That's essentially what we did. And so thanks to the voters, thanks to the Board of Commissioners for putting it on the ballot, and then thanks to the voters, about 1.5 years ago, we passed, for the first time ever, a county-wide transportation millage in Oakland County that is now. And I can talk about why it's important to us down here in the South End. I think we all know it, but I have to tell you, I highlighted a couple of senior ladies at my State of the County recently who were from Holly. And these women, we did a little video at my State of the County, and people literally had tears. I had tears because they talked about how they felt trapped in their homes. They couldn't drive anymore. And they felt trapped in their homes. When they wanted to make a doctor's appointment, they had to call some local private provider, and the wait time to make a reservation, about 22 days on average. So they had to call 22 days in advance to get a ride to a doctor's appointment. They now have access to the NODA, North Oakland Transit Authority services. And they now can just pick up the phone, get a smaller vehicles to come pick them up and take them wherever they want to go. And we did a video with them at the swimming pool at the local high school where they can go get exercise. We took a picture of them at the local restaurant where they were playing trivia with their friends. But what was really moving is how they talked about, they felt like they got their life back. They could actually live their lives in the community that they loved and not worry about the fact, as one lady said, that she was going to outlive her cat and that her cat was going to find her dead on the floor someday. It would take weeks for someone to find her. I mean, it was really moving. These things make a real difference in people's lives. And now that we have a new mainline route to Novi, and we just opened the new one to Rochester Hills and Rochester University. You're someone who has a job in one of those job-rich areas, you can now get there without a car. So that would have never happened in the past. And I'm really excited about that, both from an economic opportunity, but also from, again, looking at it through that equity lens. Something else that we did, we got the ARP dollars, which was awesome. When you've been in office as long as me and had to cut budgets cycle after cycle and figure out how we provide services for less over and over again, it was pretty eye-opening to get We got $244 million in Oakland County. And to figure out how do we spend that money? And I think we did it in a way that made sure that it reached people and made an impact in people's lives. The biggest thing we spent money on, mental health services. We do not treat mental health the way we do physical health in this county or in this country for that instance. And they need to be. You can go you break your arm, you go to the hospital and they fix it. You have a mental health episode, again, you call a phone, you get an appointment. When do you get service? It's not good enough in the greatest country on earth. That is not good enough. And so we invested in mental health and we'll continue to do it. Another program that we did that was smaller, but the impact is going to be massive. I think we took $2 million and we partnered with a nonprofit that buys medical debt for people. The #1 cause of bankruptcy in the United States is healthcare debt. Even if you have insurance, the deductibles, the loss of work and wages, all the things that come with it, the effect on your credit score, all of the stuff that happens really sets you back. And so for $2 million, we were able to purchase $200 million of medical debt for people in Oakland County. And later this year, because we're working with the health systems now, because you can't apply for this. The medical systems, the health systems, they know who owes the money and all of that stuff, right? But we're working with them right now to identify the people. But our estimate is that sometime this year, maybe even starting next month, 80,000 people across Oakland County are going to get a letter in the mail that says your medical debt has been erased.
Wow.
Imagine, I want to be there. I wish I could be there. I can't wait to start hearing those stories from people who go to bed at night worried about how they're going to get out from under this debt and what it's done to them just in terms of their own peace of mind. And I can't wait to start hearing the stories from those 80,000 people, because I think it's going to be transformative for them. There's so many good things we could talk about. Oh, but another one that we really leaned in on is something else that the previous administration had zero interest in doing and zero initiatives towards. We know that even though this is a wealthy county, lots and lots of people have a hard time affording rent or their mortgage, right? Affordable housing is huge in this county. And people say, in Oakland County? Yeah. If you look at the federal definition of housing insecure, it's people who spend more than 30% of their monthly income on housing costs. If you spend more than 30% of your income on housing costs, it's unsustainable because you have other costs, whether it's transportation, it's food, it's medicine, it's all the other stuff that you have to do. So it's unsustainable over 30%. In Oakland County, 40% of our residents spend more than 30% of their income. 40% are technically housing insecure under the federal definition. That is not acceptable. And so we said, we're going to lean in. There have been no affordable housing initiatives in Oakland County. You hear about it a lot in Detroit and in other places. We have none. The first thing I had to do is get past this notion. A lot of Republicans raised it. A lot of wealthy people raised it. This is a wealthy county. Why do you want affordable housing here? Now, part of that makes me wonder what their real opposition is to that. But putting that aside, I said, look, maybe you don't need it. Maybe you have a beautiful house and you got plenty of money, and so this isn't an issue for you. But guess what? When you go to your favorite restaurant, that person that's serving you needs a place to live. When you go to the hospital, maybe your doctor has a nice fancy place in West Bloomfield, but your nurse or the orderly or the woman who serves you in the cafeteria, she needs a place to work and she needs a way to get there. And so these people are part of our community. They're part of what makes Oakland County important and a great place to be. And they are getting priced out of our county. I knew this when I was mayor of Ferndale. This became a huge issue there when I was there, and we leaned in on affordable housing projects, but we never got help from the county in doing that ever. So we put aside $20 million in a housing trust fund. And it is to incentivize developers to add affordable components to the projects that we're doing. Yeah. And the interesting thing is that we put this together and we put out an RFP and said, okay, developers, give us your plans. And we got very, very few back. And we were kind of puzzled by that. And so I talked to the folks at MSHDA, Michigan Housing Development Authority in Lansing, and said, what's going on, man? Why? I know there's developers in Southeast Michigan that know how to do affordable housing and that make money at this. And why aren't they interested? And she said, honestly, Mr. Executive, if you want to know the truth, the developers think Oakland County is not really open for business in this. You say you want to do this, but you're not serious about it. And then they go to a local community and then the local community opposes it. And there's a lot of hoops to go through to do affordable housing. And they don't think you're serious about it. But we can help you if you're really serious. And I said, well, I thought $20 million sounded serious enough, but help me make them understand. So we put together, with MSHDA's help, a forum basically of developers and said, here's what we're doing, here's what we have available to you, and would you please bid on these projects and help us help you make your developments affordable. The next round of funding, we got more projects than we can fund right now, which is a very, very good problem to have. And it's not, by the way, we're not just doing them in Pontiac, right? We're not gonna just concentrate poverty in poorer communities. We want these spread across the county. So we just announced our first 7 projects, and they're everywhere from Farmington Hills to Rochester Hills to Pontiac to Southfield to Ferndale. And we're going to continue to do those all over the county. And what we, just so you know, I don't want to get into the weeds about it, but basically what we provide is the gap financing. So a developer has a project, an apartment project, or a townhouse or whatever, and we say we want you to make a certain percentage of those affordable. And then the first thing they said is, well, if I do that, then my ROI doesn't work. I can't make enough money on this project to get my financing, blah, blah, blah. And so what we say is, what's the gap? What's the gap between what you need at a market rate versus affordable? And we'll pay the gap financing. And that's what our money does. We pay that gap financing. They say, cool, we'll do it. And then we move forward. So this has been an extremely successful project, including maybe my favorite project is the one in Rochester Hills, because this is going to be one designed specifically for people with mental health issues, either maybe on the autistic spectrum, or who need to be in a community of people where they have some wraparound services as well, right? They're independent living, but also have the wraparound services that they need. And thank goodness the city of Rochester Hills was supportive of this. All the communities that we've worked with have been supportive so far, which is amazing. I mean, I suppose there's still some out there that don't want affordable housing, but most of them have been very supportive. So, I could go on, but I guess the bottom line for me is that the difference between sending Democrats to Oakland County and as opposed to sending Brooks and his crew there in the past couldn't be clearer. And I hope I've given you some examples of the way we think, because we put people first. And it's not about giving handouts. It's about helping to level the playing field for everyone. When you give people transportation and you give them a safe place to live and a safe community to live in, it's still up to you to go hustle and get a job and do what you need to do to live the American dream, whatever that is for you, but to have your best life. But we're going to make sure, because we're Democrats, that we level the playing field so there's equal opportunity for everyone. And that's what we're doing. So that's what we're up to. So I'm told that we have time for questions. So rather than me just, Mr. Woodward, I've already sang your praises, but.
I know, you summoned me.
And if you know Dave, you know he's never exactly on time, so I'm not surprised. Dave, I talked about affordable housing, transit, DEI, sustainability. What did I miss?
Medical debt relief.
Medical debt relief. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll close with that and then take questions. Pontiac is our county seat. You wouldn't know that because Brooks Patterson moved his office to Waterford. I don't even know how you get to do that. Shouldn't Brooks's office, my office, I should say, be in Pontiac? Yeah, it should. But there's been so much disinvestment in Pontiac over the years, both from the corporate community. GM has basically disinvested in Pontiac. The county government, which used to have lots of employees and offices in downtown Pontiac, moved them all to a campus almost as far out of Pontiac as you can get, and others. And I'm committed to our county seat. I believe that the potential there is huge, and not just from an equity perspective, although I think you could certainly just make that argument alone that they've been disinvested in, but also from an economic development perspective, because one of the things I learned as mayor is you're not gonna turn around a town unless you figure out how to attract young people. We talk about growing our state. How do we keep young people here? Young people want things different than when I was young. So I spent a lot of time as mayor listening to what young families and people wanted. That's why we have a skate park, even though I don't skate. We have a lot of bike lanes, even though I don't do a lot of biking, because we listened to people who wanted to move their families here and said, these are the kinds of things we want. And so I believe that Pontiac, if we can restore it to its previous glory, it can be a magnet for younger families who want an urban walkable experience. They can take a mass transit vehicle up Woodward and they can go downtown or to Royal Oak from Pontiac, and that it can be our urban center once again. And I believe. So I've been telling developers that, but I think there was this kind of wait and see attitude. So I said, okay, we're going to plant our flag in the ground with Dave Woodward's support and the board's support. And most importantly, the legislature's support, because we didn't quite have enough money to do this. But you know, the Phoenix Center downtown, the thing with the amphitheater on top that everybody has fond memories of, except now it's just a crumbling parking deck that you really can't use anymore. And worse, it's right in the middle of their main street, it's right on Saginaw. So it blocks the office buildings from getting downtown. So we came up with an idea, Dave and I and the mayor of Pontiac, and said, all right, let's dream big with these ARP dollars because we'll never get these again. What could we do that's transformational in Pontiac? And the project that we came up with is, let's buy this Phoenix Center and tear it down. Let's rebuild a parking deck off of Saginaw Street. And then this old General Motors building that's sitting right there, right next to it on Saginaw, which is still in really good shape. They just left it like in 2017. So they left it in very nice shape. Let's move county employees back to downtown Pontiac. Fill up an entire building of homes in downtown Pontiac. And we did it with the legislature's help. They gave us $50 million. We put 10 million of our own ARP dollars towards this. And just what I hoped would happen is happening. That is, it's not going to save Pontiac by itself, but my hope was that it would be a catalyst for developers to say, wow, good things are happening in Pontiac. We're going to get transit up Woodward. We're going to redo the loop. The county's committed. Developers are flying all over Pontiac. In the next few months, you're going to hear of other development projects that private developers are going to do. And that was my hope, that private developers would bring jobs and housing to downtown Pontiac so that it can support the stores and the restaurants that Pontiac needs to be a thriving community. And we're going to bring out, I don't know if it'll be an actual wrecking ball or not, but we're going to start the demolition of the Phoenix Center this fall. So stay tuned. And hopefully within 2 years, my office and Dave's office will be in downtown Pontiac, and I can't be more excited. Thank you for reminding me. Again, that's enough for me. If the group has any questions, I would be happy to take them. Yeah.
About the affordable housing.
Yes.
How did you get past all the pushback in various municipalities?
You know, let me say this. I tend to have a collaborative leadership style, right? I'm not trying to force people to do what they don't want to do. But we worked with the local communities and we said, we made the same argument that I made here today. Do you understand that there's people in your community that are getting priced out? They can't afford to live here, and these are people that you need in your community. And we just sort of had those conversations. Now, I'm not saying that every community in Oakland County wants affordable housing. There's going to be some that don't, but I have been pleasantly surprised by the number who said, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. You know, affordable housing has this terrible connotation anyway. Immediately, a lot of people think of Section 8 or federal HUD housing. It's not that. It's affordable rates. It's not vouchers. But it's critical housing. It's that donut housing in the middle that people need to get by. And so, yeah, I'm not saying that every community has signed on yet, but that's
I hear a lot about people in Railroad.
Yeah.
They don't want change.
It's a lot of people everywhere, right? People are change resistant.
City leaders.
Well, right. I think you have the leadership here. You just need the right project, right? I mean, because it also requires a developer. So you need a developer who thinks he or she can make money here has a project, has a site, and then comes to the city and says, we'd like to do this. So we're not far enough along in Royal Oak yet, but we'll get there.
We're gonna go figure on the Rochester with the bank property, just
Yeah.
going by.
Yeah.
That was here in
Yeah.
Royal Oak.
Yeah, no, I remember reading about that, yeah. So, we, one community at a time. The good news is we don't have enough money to do 100 projects yet. So we've got enough money to do the ones that are interested, and we'll just keep working it. Thank you, yeah.
My question is along the lines of affordable housing. I'm curious how the county defines affordable housing, like what are some of those parameters? And then how do we connect the people who need that housing so that people don't just, oh, great, a lower rent apartment, I'll choose that one. Like how is income
Yeah.
capacity connected?
No, yeah, that's a great question, but you have to be income eligible, and there are federal definitions and guidelines about what meets affordable criteria. Some of it depends on the average income of the community that it's being built in. So it's a percentage of income of the people in that community. And so it varies by community, but it's all federally mandated to qualify for these dollars and for us to even be able to give them as affordable dollars. So wealthy people cannot get rent controlled apartments just because they want cheaper rent. This really has to, and you have to prove your income and all of that stuff, yeah, in the back.
I have a question about that improvements in public transportation that you implemented.
Yeah.
That's so wonderful. I'm very happy to hear that. How do you publicize it to the people so they know it? I understand it's maybe on your website,
Yeah.
but not, they sometimes don't look for it. How do you send the letters or?
Yeah, how do we publicize the transit that exists? And by the way, I thought you were gonna say something else, which is, we did the countywide, we're not done yet with transit, right, Dave? We're not done. That's the foundation that's gonna allow us to do more. But we did something in Oakland County that we had never had before, because the millage generates enough money, we were able to hire we have a transit department in Oakland County now, because that money, instead of the SMART money flowing to the communities, it flows to Oakland County, and then we disperse it to SMART and the other providers. So within that money that we take, we have a transportation department that's also responsible for communication. We do a ton of community engagement, especially in the communities, I will admit, where there hasn't been transit before, because we wanted to know what kind of transit do you need. We don't want to give you a big old bus riding through your town if that's not what you need. So we've done a lot of community outreach, not saying we couldn't do more, but we have a department now that's responsible for communicating the transit services. Yeah, yes, sir.
Well, just a comment and build on that, not a comment, more of a request. And it's my understanding that SMART gets approximately a third of its budget from the state. And,
Yeah.
and it's also my understanding that Governor Whitmer has taken $40 million out of the budget for transit. So could I ask you to lean on her to make sure we get that money?
And the simple answer is yes. Yes, the governor is well aware, from people like me and Dave and others, that transit is a priority for us. And it's not that it's not a priority for her. I know she gets portrayed that way, but part of it is that we had to get our own poop in a group, as April would say, Dave. You have to have a plan. You know, the governor can't give money if there isn't a plan. And so that's why we said, okay, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna have a countywide plan, right? The second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna collaborate with the other counties in the region, because there was no regional cooperation on this issue. And if you want federal and state dollars, you need a regional plan. So this didn't get a lot of attention, but for the first time in history, we had a plan with Wayne County and Macomb County and Oakland County that we worked on together that would have done mass transit along Woodward, along Gratiot, and along Michigan Avenue. And we applied for a federal grant of about $120 million to help us get that started. The grant, the first round of grants were announced a few months ago, and we didn't get it. But we're not giving up. We're looking at what we didn't have in our application that they wanted, how we can strengthen that, more coordination with local groups, all kinds of things. But we're going to apply for it again. So part of it is not her fault. You know, that money that you talked about was put aside for transit, but it's been sitting there, frankly, until communities get their act together and have a plan that makes sense. And so we are determined not to let that money sit there anymore. And I feel relatively confident that when we have the right plan with the federal support and a regional collaboration, that the legislature, and you could ask one of our legislators who's here, whether or not they would support that, but I can assure you with Natalie here, and I know Mallory McMorrow would say the same thing, we'll get the money for transit when we have the right plan in place, and that's what we're working on. Thank you.
Just one little comment to that, that people will not engage enough people in that transit.
Yeah.
It will be empty. The
Yeah.
buses will be empty and it will not be sustainable. And it will,
Yes and no. I'm gonna challenge that just a little bit. Yeah, I agree. You have to make people aware of the services, no question about that. But look what happened with the smart buses, I mean, the fast buses on Woodward. Those started 3 years ago. And in the first year, I remember this because I was very involved in Ferndale at the time and trying to get better transit services there. And we heard that argument, you're gonna, you add, those fast buses cost additional revenues. You're gonna spend this money on Woodward and no more people are gonna ride them. In the first year and a half that the fast bus was taken Woodward, they doubled their ridership. People are, in my opinion, are craving better transportation services, but they have to be clean, they have to be safe, they have to be cheap, they have to be reliable. So you have to do it right. But when we did it right on Woodward with the fast buses, and most people agree those are a much better way than the old system on Woodward, ridership doubled in a year and a half. So yes, we have to get the word out, but I believe that the demand is there as well. Tim, I'm looking at you because how do you, oh, see that, he's such a good guy. I am up this year. I have a Republican opponent, very conservative guy. He's most notable for his opposition to a woman's right to choose, which is really disturbing to me. Right? We have invested money in women's reproductive health in this county. You can now get women's health services at our county clinics, which you never were able to do before. We gave money to Planned Parenthood when the previous president tried to strip those funds from the budget. So we care about women's health in this county. And this guy doesn't, among a bunch of other bad positions. So I am up this year. I could use your help. And Tim has a sign-up sheet if you'd like to get on our mailing list, if you'd like to volunteer, if you'd like to help me and the rest of the county folks get elected. It would be most appreciated if you would sign the list that Tim is now passing out. All right, maybe one more question, Mr. Chair, because I don't want to hog all your time. In the back, you guys have to fight over which one are merger questions.
I was wondering if there are any viable Democratic candidates for sheriff.
I'm not a political prognosticator. I can't tell you who's viable or not. We had a number of folks who had entered that race and then a few of them dropped out. I don't personally know the gentleman who's the Democratic candidate, to be honest with you, even though he lives in Ferndale, but I don't know him personally. So I don't know his viability. That's the short answer. Yeah. All right, that was quick enough that we'll.
I work with the Oakland County Task Force on Poverty and Homelessness.
Yeah.
They,
Yes.
the holes in the system are huge.
Huge.
And they're not, people don't have emergency funding for places where they can't afford the
They don't.
different shelters and
That's right.
situations. What's the?
Especially for families, by the way, that's one of our greatest needs when it comes to the homeless population in Oakland County, it's families, because a lot of the shelters are for single people or people facing substance abuse or all these other issues where you don't want to bring your kids. Just last week, I was talking to, the first thing is, I hire really smart, passionate people who know how to get this stuff done. And so between Medea Tarek, who oversees our housing and health departments, and now Khadijah, who oversees the housing area, they're passionate about making sure that our homeless population and our low income population have housing. And Medea just told me again today that she's going to claw back Dave doesn't even know this yet. She's going to ask to claw back $300,000 of the health department budget, which they haven't spent this year, for the transitional housing for families in Oakland County for those folks to continue those services, while we work on a strategy of how do we invest in these folks, how do we support them to make sure that they get the support and services that they need. So yeah, it's a huge issue that we've always, over the years, said, yeah, homelessness is terrible, it's terrible, but we've never really leaned in. So we've been working with the providers, we've been funding them to the extent that we can. And building new shelter capacity in general, yes, in addition to the biggest need, which is the family style support. So thank you for your question. All right, I'll let you get back to your meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We are so lucky about the nine. Next up, we're gonna have our Michigan Redistricting Commission speaker.
Oh, yeah.
I probably will have to use this. Okay, I'm going to tell you who I am and why I'm here. And then I'm gonna open it up to questions. My name is Elaine Andrade, and I am one of 13 commissioners for the Michigan Independent Redistricting, left out Citizens Redistricting Commission, which, as you know, in 2018, we passed a ballot initiative to have an independent commission redraw our lines for the state, for our state and House Representatives and Senate. And in 2020, after the census, we were tasked with that job. Now, we've had some setbacks, court cases and whatnot, and we are back at the drawing board. We completed the House, and now we are doing the state Senate. And we have until the end of June to get those done. So that is why I'm here, because we are currently drawing those lines, and some of the districts that were thrown out of court affect you. Let me see, they are districts, 1-3, which doesn't tell you anything, maybe, but Senate District 8, you may be familiar with 8. Boston, Detroit, Royal Oak, Beverly Hills, Berkeley, Birmingham, Ferndale, Huntington Woods, Oak Park, Pleasant Ridge, and Royal Oak. We're redrawing that one. We're redrawing 10, 11, 1, 3, and 6. So next week, we will be having public meetings in Macomb County, Oakland County, and Wayne County, and wanting to get people's input. That is critical. We say that again. It's critical to our job to be fair and draw these lines in a way that best suits our state and our purpose. And I am one of the 4 Democrats on the commission. We have 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and 5 unaffiliated. And let me tell you, drawing this area is tough. It was tough with the House districts, but the state, the Senate, they're larger and they encompass much more, and it's much harder to get fair districts. And that's why we need your input. We want, we have, as part of our mandate to draw these lines, we have to, first of all, make them equal in population. 265,000 people in each district. And this is in order of, importance. We have to follow them. The second one is Equal Population and Voting Rights Act. As long as Equal Protections Act, the geographically contiguous. That's 2. Reflect the state's diversity and communities of interest. No disproportionate advantage to any political party. So I don't want to hear about, well, let's keep them in office or let's keep them. That's up to politicians to do that. And we have to at some point reflect consideration of county, city, and township boundaries. That's number 6, so you guys might not always be happy with what we do, but again, we want your voice. We really need that, because otherwise we're just going, that line is good, that line, that puts enough population. I know this group came out and said they want to be together, and if the other group doesn't come out and say, this is important too, then you guys might get split up. So, again, very important that you make your voices heard, and I have the information on the, public hearings that I'll leave at the back, so people can, see where, again, it's Warren Community Center, May 7th, Pearls Event Center on May 8th in Southfield, and at Wayne State on May 9th. Basically, we're there all day from 10 until 7 at night. I'm looking for your input. So that is pretty much why I came here to ask for your help and your input and any questions. Yes.
What kind of input, let's say I show up, what kind of input, was helpful to your guys' work, and what kind of input, I guess you don't want to say what kind of input don't you want, but what kind of input is helpful for you guys to make a decision if I were to show up or anybody was?
Helpful to, let me just say, I currently live in Imlay City, but I spent most of my kids' growing years and everything in Berkeley but a lot of people don't know this area at all. A lot of people on the commission, and they like, okay, let's take Berkeley, and they can go with Royal Oak. Well, wait a minute. Berkeley and Huntington Woods and part of Oak Park share a school district. Maybe that's not the best way. I mean, I can say that, but there are other areas that I can't speak to, maybe in Macomb County, on the west side in Wayne County. So people who have communities of interest, and that could be anything. It could be cultural, it could be economic, you know, like this downtown area, and this is, you know, we want to keep that together. I always thought, speaking to Mr. Coulter's idea, I always thought a Woodward corridor for transit would be great to have, something that goes, you know, takes Ferndale, Royal Oak, and maybe up to Pontiac, because we need that mass transit. How long haven't we needed mass transit? So that's the kind of input. I want communities of interest, that's second on the list. Anything you can say that will help, especially getting those lines drawn right. Right now, I don't know if anyone is familiar with the way the current maps are, but we split Macomb County down the middle. Sometimes I look at that and I say, wait, North Macomb County doesn't have the same needs as Southern Macomb County. But that are partisan fairness as well. And that's number 4 on the list, partisan fairness. We want to be fair. We don't want to go back to having lopsided margins where it takes, you know, 70% of the Democratic vote to get one person in there. We don't want to go back to that. We want it to be more equal. So that's important too, the partisan fairness as well, you know, and everybody who lives in the area knows the area much better than all 13 of the commissioners. So, anything else? Yes?
You take, maybe I missed it in your presentation, but you take an overall principle such as our state has 48% registered Democrats and 46% registered Republicans, and then try to use those kinds of numbers to set up the districts.
We do, that there's a component as we're drawing the maps to, let's say we draw the maps in and then we ask for them to apply the partisan fairness numbers on it. And this is lopsided margins, mean median, Republicans, Democrat, the efficiency gap and the seats ratio. Those four measures can be applied to the maps we draw, and they take the 20, I think they go back to 2012, 2016 elections, and that's what they use as a database. So we do try and apply that to everything before we kind of pass on that map to consider. Yes?
In terms of your call to action, if individuals want to go to a public hearing, where can they find the meeting times and dates?
They can find it on, let me see, it is www.michigan.gov/MICRC.
And I will send an email to Bud as well.
Now, that also has public comment portal. You can actually watch us every day. We meet all day long. You can sit there with us and listen. But you also can comment at every meeting we have public comment. You can also write in on that form. We post the maps that we're working. Those maps are posted. You can click into them. You can look and see what we're doing. It's very helpful to me when people say, this makes no sense. You need to put this over here. And I mean, again, we look at those things every day. We take those into consideration, because in reality, we're just your voice. We get picked out of a hat, right? And I think most of the 13 of us believe that we just want to reflect what our communities tell us to do. Yes.
Thank you for stepping into this maiden voyage of redistricting as a former state legislature and watching how it's been done in the past. I am happy that there's a better system, but I really want to impress. The genuine desire to get public feedback to help these things, I think that's great. But we can't let mob rule dictate things. I think as Democrats, working families, or party working families, and barriers to participate. And it is a privilege and a luxury to be able to engage in this process when I'm trying to figure out how to do it. And so as a Democratic member of this body, that is, you could speak a little bit to like your philosophy to ensure that the Democrats of Michigan, which is most of Michigan, values are reflected. I mean, I've heard the community of interest debate, and I can look at it, I can argue on both sides, but at the end of the day, that we need fair maps, and giving fair maps and Democrats at any election, regardless of the national political. But I really want to impress that. I mean, I'm fully aware of organized efforts to put certain comments out there, and I don't want it to ever seem like that's equal of an investment, just because that the Republican Party was able to organize channels of people who did. So it's, I don't know. Is that, you're not a judge. You need to, yeah, you are a member of this commission and you can like push your Democratic values in the capacity as a Democrat.
Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, and I like to think that because of the way we've structured it, in terms of the public comment, you know, people can call in, and there's also the problem with technology, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge for getting the word out no matter what. You're not going to hit everybody, and not everybody's going to have access to the technology to do that, but we do calling in, if you have a phone, you can call in. You know what I've seen a lot of, and is mobilization at the group level. You know, and that's why the club, coming to the clubs, whatever the clubs can do to mobilize. There's a group of women from Huntington Woods that have shown up and made their voice heard. They show up. One of our taglines, they show up, they speak up. And I don't think that besides the court case, which was brought by Republicans, if you've heard of the AG case that was brought by Republicans because, you know, I thought they did a pretty good job of partisan fairness, and we have a Democratic legislature, you know, for 40 years. So I think that club, and I have to say, I didn't have a lot of part in the initial match because I'm the new commissioner that just got appointed in in January. But we did what you know, needed to be done for those maps. Maybe not in the best way, because I don't know if you looked at the house, the districts we drew, just finished drawing. It's vastly different from the other ones. It makes more sense to me, but not being a politician, not being super active down in this area. Like I said, I know this area, but right now I'm living in Lapeer County, and let me tell you, not a whole lot. I count the Trump signs on front yards.
What do women in Huntington Woods say? I'm very curious.
You know, they tell us, like Huntington Woods, what they Southfield, the Jewish community that's there, you know, which we're all well aware of, the Huntington Woods, Oak Park, Southfield. That community, they'll speak to Ferndale and going down into Detroit. That's bad. That's good. I mean, so far I've agreed with everything they've said, and they makes, you know, perfect sense. So they show up and speak up, and they get their voices heard. And it's something that, as we're drawing lines, and especially people who, again, aren't familiar, they're going to remember them. You know, it's up to, yes, some of the Democrats, and I have to say that, let's see, the Democrats who are on the committee, that's myself. I'm the outlier because I'm in Lapeer County, but we have one from Farmington Hills, Donna Callahan, Brittany Combs from Detroit, and Juanita Curry from Detroit. So all the Democrats are from this area, and this is the area we're redrawing. So I think they're very cognizant of kind of what needs to be done. I'll put one on that.
Perfect. Great. And I will share this with the club, but there is going to be a notice of public meetings. It'll be in the back if you want to take a photo, if you want to join. Next up, we have some big deadlines planned for precinct delegates, so I'll have William Asher give an update.
Hello, I'm William Asher, the precinct delegate liaison for the club. And as the deadline for precinct delegates is this Tuesday. So if you haven't filled out your application, your affidavit yet, please do so today. I have blanks here. I have to leave the meeting at 11:45. So if you can get it back to me before then, that'd be great, or you can give it to Carl, and he'll get them to me. And what we'll do is we'll take these applications and get them to the county clerk by Tuesday, which is the deadline. Precinct delegates, are boots on the ground, or not necessarily boots, you can also be telephone callers or postcard writers or text messengers. And I want to mention that briefly and then I'll stop. We have a new tool from the Michigan Democratic Party called the texting portal. And I used it, and some of you might even have received text messages in a campaign a few days ago to solicit new precinct delegate volunteers. Unfortunately, it identified the sender as Sam, which I'm still trying to find out why that happened and get it fixed, because I really wanted my own name to show up. But it sent out a solicitation to 749 people who were identified as recent volunteers, Democratic volunteers. And I got 46 replies, which is 6%, which I think is pretty good. And of those, I had 16 people indicating yes or maybe, which is 2%. That's great. So the reason I bring this up is that you as precinct delegates can use this tool, and it can target people within your own precinct based on their interest in being Democrats, based on their age, based on a few other criteria. I'll just leave it at that. And I think it's a great tool, and it's one that people who cannot walk can use and actually maybe reach more people. So if you're interested in being a precinct delegate and you haven't already filled out the form, please get one from me or from Carl. And then Tom is a notary, and he'll be glad to notarize them for us.
And when's the deadline?
Tuesday. Thank you.
All right, we are going to move to our candidate section. Just given the time, I'm just trying to be 3 minutes or less, but who wants to kick it off for candidates? Perfect.
Hello. Okay. Hello, Royal Oak Area Democrats. I very much appreciate you guys welcoming me with your club today. My home club is the Troy Dems. My name is Tyler Fox. I am a candidate for Michigan's 57th House District, which covers portions of Sterling Heights, Troy, and then one precinct of Madison Heights. Anybody here from Madison Heights? Give me a hand. I got one. All right. I really appreciate getting a chance to see how your club works and the fantastic guests that you guys get to come speak. I'm running this campaign off of a number of issues, body autonomy, making healthcare more affordable, childcare more affordable, trying to deal with power outages and stand up to DTE. But one of the biggest platforms of my campaign is housing, and kind of sticking with the theme of today. Are y'all cool if I talk about housing for a little bit?
Sure.
All right. So Dave Coulter came up and he spoke about folks who are experiencing housing instability in Oakland County. My story is that my family was one of those families. I lived in about 10 different homes in North Oakland County before I was 18 years old. The home that I just purchased with my wife back in 2022 is the 13th house I've lived in my entire life. I am very fortunate that I had access to affordable, denser homes, density being that key word there. I lived in many duplexes, I lived in many quadplexes, I lived in many types of housing that in my own community of Troy are kind of viewed as a no-no topic. I've been on the City of Troy's Planning Commission since 2023, and I have been an advocate for affordable housing the entire time I've been there. I have heard the communities of Royal Oak and Birmingham referred to like a dirty word. Those people can go live in Royal Oak if they want dense housing. We don't need that here in Troy. They can go move to Birmingham. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think Royal Oak and Birmingham are pretty nice communities. Yeah. And I am personally an advocate that any person, regardless of their income level, their family history, their marital status, their employment status, should have the right to live in any community in Oakland County that they can get to. And I'd like to think you guys agree with me. So I am running for state rep off of creating more state programs that quite frankly mirror a lot of the fantastic county programs that we're running right now. If we could get the state to step in and help deal with obstructive zoning laws, we could get the state in to help fund affordable housing projects. That is personally one of my biggest goals if I make it, fingers crossed, if I make it to Lansing. So I'm gonna need the help of fantastic Democrats like you. At this point in the campaign, it's really dollars and doors. So if you're able to sign up for a single shift, I would very much appreciate it. Even if you're able to donate just $10, it'd be very appreciated. My website is fox4mi57.com. Like to keep it simple. That's also my tag on all of the social media we're on, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Because I'm under 30, I have to be on TikTok. But so please feel free to check us out. If you like us on Facebook, share our stuff, follow us on Instagram, all that fun stuff. Everything is helpful. And I do want to take a second to acknowledge Penny Lubes, who was actually the first elected official to endorse my campaign for State House. So I cannot tell you how appreciative I am of that. You guys have a fantastic county commissioner with Penny. So thank you so much.
Right now.
Say that again.
Who holds the seat right now?
Right now is a Republican named Tom Kuhn. I wish I could complain about him, but he really hasn't done a damn thing since getting into the office. So there's really not much to talk about. He brought $0 back to the district in the most recent budget. He thought it was more important to make sure he votes with the rest of his bloc to kill the budget. That is with Republican State Senator Mike Weber bringing in a couple $100,000 projects. So some Republicans like to bring money back to their community. Tom Kuhn is not one of them. My hope is to hopefully get there, bring some investment in housing. Like I mentioned, power outages. We have a lot of blackouts where I live. I lost power last night. We just had a little bit of rain, the whole thing. But I'm not going to go on another rant because I want to try to be respectful of everybody's time. Thank you so much. All right.
Good morning.
All right.
My name is Nicole Huddleston. Some of you I had the pleasure of meeting when I attended the meeting back in December. And if you signed my petition, I want to say thank you because on April 17th, I officially filed 7,800 signatures securing my name with the ballot. So thank you. I am running for Oakland County Circuit Court Judge. I've been an Oakland County resident for nearly 20 years. I currently live in West Bloomfield with my husband, our 2 daughters who just wrapped up their junior year in college, and our 11-year-old son. And then everybody's favorite family member, Hamilton, which is our beloved Labradoodle. I've been practicing law for a decade. I graduated from the University of Detroit Mercy in 2014, and I've dedicated my entire legal career to serving underserved populations and being a voice for the voiceless. And so I started my legal career at the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. I was an assistant prosecuting attorney in the Domestic Violence Division. I then went to Lakeshore Legal Aid. If you're familiar, Lakeshore is a legal aid organization that provides free legal services. My client base was senior citizens, victims of domestic violence, and then individuals living at or below the poverty guideline who cannot afford access to the court system. For the last 6 years, I've been at the Detroit Justice Center. At DJC, I'm currently the managing director, where I not only practice law, but I also lead a dynamic team of lawyers and support staff. And we work to remedy the effects of mass incarceration. So we provide free legal services primarily in the areas of family law, traffic, and housing. Having provided free legal services to thousands of individuals over the last decade, I've truly seen firsthand the challenges that people face within our legal system. I've seen individuals sentenced to jail in traffic court because they could not afford to pay their court order fines and fees. I've seen moms lose custody of their kids, and not because they were a bad parent, but because they could not afford to navigate that system on their own. This has already been designated as a family court seat, and 80% of the people who go through family court go unrepresented because they cannot afford an attorney. So not only do I have over a decade of experience in family law, I also have a lot of experience working with 80% of the population who would go through that court. I'm at the point where, you know, as I need people to help knock doors. If you're willing to loan me your lawn, to put a sign, judges have a lot of power, and it's really important that we get individuals in that seat who understand the complexities of the lives of the individuals who will become before them. So again, Nicole Huddleston is my name. I am running to be your next Oakland County Circuit Court Judge, and I would appreciate any support that you can provide. Thank you.
Where you running from? Please.
Hello, so my name is Amrit Kohli. I'm an unlikely candidate. I'm a musician for one.
I'm not a sheriff, I'm not a law enforcement officer, I've never been a law enforcement officer, that's what I'm running on. Because I think the law enforcement in this county needs to be checked. And I think someone like me who, I've been involved with the ceasefire movement, I've been an anti-war activist since 1991. I am a very unlikely candidate, but I took this position because something needs to be done. It was an opportunity that presented itself. I believe that we need to end the war on drugs. I believe we need to end the war on terror. And I think we need a ceasefire in Palestine. And those are the kinds of, and I think we need harm reduction centers all over the county, as well as, people not being arrested for using substances, but actually taken to these harm reduction centers where they can get treatment as well as substances. So, that's kind of my position on all that. So like I said, I'm an unlikely candidate, but my name's Amrit Kohli and I hope you vote for me. Thank you.
All right, do we have any other candidates? Right.
Good morning. My name is Ahmed Ghanem, and you can call me AG. And I came and I prepared something to 3 minutes, but after I listened to David, I was inspired, and actually I gotta change what I'm gonna say because he had amazing speech. As a long-term resident of Royal Oak of Ferndale, I lived 6 years in Royal Oak and around more than 15 years in Ferndale. I'm so thankful to have David as representing me. I'm so thankful to have Dave too, representing us. This is amazing. So locally, we feel that we are represented, right? Because all the issues that we care about, he touched upon it. He touched upon healthcare, transportation, affordable housing, all these things. So as a citizen live here, I feel represented. But on the federal level, I don't feel represented. In Congress level, I don't feel represented. I work in healthcare. My background is physician. I manage healthcare systems, one of the biggest healthcare systems in the country. And I'm telling you, if you ask any executive healthcare about the healthcare happening in the United States, he will say one thing: unsustainable. The healthcare system that we have here is unsustainable. And people in Congress, for years, they have done nothing to our healthcare. They have done nothing to make it accessible. They have done nothing to make it affordable. I work there at the hospital and I see people with health care. They have insurance, they have job, they done everything they're supposed to do, and they don't take the test or they don't take this surgery because they cannot afford the co-payment. This is not fair to have in here in the United States, and the Congress is not acting about it. And that's why our local government here is working hard to take care of this. This is not their job to take care of to refund the people with debts. They shouldn't have debts from the beginning. They should not have debts. Affordable care or affordable housing has to be redefined. It should not be money for people that cannot afford. If you work a job, you should be able to afford a house without even the government pushing you to afford this house. But why we have an affordable houses, and this is why we don't have an affordable housing, and this is the crisis that we live right now, because no one wants to address it on the federal level, because the kids graduate from schools with debts for all their life, they cannot even get a loan. So who's going to address this? It's not a job of the local government to address this. It's the job for the Congress to address this. But local government, they are getting the slacks of this, which is great that they're doing. But we have to act on the federal level. The money that we pay as taxpayer has to stay inside this country for affordable houses, for health care, for all this. The wars that we fight, it is endless wars. Endless wars. We paid billions of dollars in Iraq. Billions of dollars in Iraq. And what happened right now? What happened is Iraq now is controlled by Iran. So after spending this $1 billion, and the problem is there's no accountability. Nobody in Congress is accountable to tell them, okay, what happened? Why did you vote this way? Why did you vote to send this money out? And just 1 minute, I'm gonna done here. This is why I'm running for Congress. I'm running in the 11 districts. My name is AG, and I want your support for this, to end this war, to keep our money inside our district, to have affordable and accessible healthcare. I have 20 years of healthcare experience, and I can know how to make this accessible. I worked with foreign policy, I worked with Hillary Clinton, I worked with under Obama's administration to have a forum with the Arab Spring people directly between Hillary Clinton and Obama administration. So I have a foreign policy experience. I have 20 years of healthcare experience. This is why I'm running here. And my name is Ahmed Ghanem, but you can call me AG. And I will give you some, sorry about that. I will give you some of these cards to support me in this race, because if we don't do nothing here, we stay thinking about how we can pay the debts for people that should not have debts from the beginning, or afford houses for the people that work 2 jobs and still cannot afford this house. Congress has to act, and this is why my slogan, I'm going to end with this in this campaign, is we are the answer. If we don't do this ourselves, nobody will do it to us. If we don't vote and have better representation, proper representation in Congress, as we have a proper representation for Dave and David here, we need the same for Congress. Thank you very much.
Well, luckily, we do have a U.S. member of Congress who actually has multiple housing bills, Congresswoman Stevens. What we do introduce is to make sure that people can stay in their homes, give tax credit so they can actually adapt their homes to stay in place. We also have mold remediation bills, but there's a lot of great house bills from Congresswoman Stevens. But Tim, you want to go next?
We'll be very, very quick, I promise. My name is Tim Jaworski. I'm running for re-election for the Royal Oak School Board. Glad that all of you are here today. Welcome. It's a beautiful day, finally. I filed, Erica Alexander has also filed, there's 2 of us filed. Our petitions have been accepted. So we're moving on to step 2 of any campaign. Now I'm looking for help. You all helped me 4 years ago, and I was very excited and appreciative. I have postcards on the back table. I got here a little bit later than a lot of you, so you might not have seen them when you walked in. But on there is a donation link to my Act Blue. I think 4 years ago, I probably started funding it a little bit later than I should have. So we're on top of everything right now. And anyone have any questions for me?
I was wondering, is the sort of the right wing Black and Royal Oak organizing a street corner swing this year?
We've not heard anything yet. I've heard of one potential candidate who might not think like we do. But no, nothing yet. Mike.
We can donate. Will there also be signs?
I have a lot of signs. I'm not on the ballot until actually November. I don't have a primary, so I'm going to hold off on the signs until probably September, but they look just like this. Very long.
Have there been any discussions of banning books? Have there been folks asking about it? Have there been any efforts to try to get the Royal Oak School Board to ban certain pieces of literature?
I have a really fun story, actually. A parent came to one board meeting in 4 years. She asked that a book be banned because it talked of homosexual characters. We did not ban the book. And the PTA that I was the representative to was buying books to put in the school library with my name in them. And that's the book I chose.
Okay.
So cheap copies in Carolina. Anything else? I like the question answer. No other questions? Sweet. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Morning, everybody. Judge Andrew Polakowski, 44th District Court, Royal Oak in Berkeley. Running to retain the seat this year, and I'm just going to give you a few updates. I know I was here last month, but we had a really successful open house. Thank you, Monica Hunt, for helping organize that. Really good night, a lot of fun to talk about the programs we have going on there, and with some updates about that. Operation Drive, one of our favorites that Judge Mighty started way back when. We just had a really successful Thursday. 11 participants came back with their licenses. We got to celebrate that.
Yeah.
And this was our 1600th. I'm saying that right. 1,600th license that came through the program. So that was a really exciting moment for us all. And then I want to give a little shout out to Charlie in the back of the room. We just saw a budget that came through the Judiciary Committee with a line item for over $2 million to expand Operation Drive. Like Meinke's vision now is like moving on to other spots. It's a lot of fun. And the last thing is that House bill I keep talking about, 5103, which would blast down a barrier for a lot of people to then walk into the Secretary of State and apply for their license, is sitting on the governor's desk. It has passed both the House and the Senate, so we just need a signature. We're on our way. Right. That's it for now. I have Rom's 8th graders coming in to view our my violation of probation docket later on this month. It'll be the second class that's come through. The 8th graders are all kind of in this little spot where they missed Judge Meinke's Courtroom 101 program because of COVID. So we're kind of trying to pick up some of those kids who are interested. It's a voluntary program. They come in and watch violation of probation. So we've had one group and we're gonna have another group come in June. That's it for now. So thanks.
You're on the ballot?
Yeah, I'm running to retain the seat. So I'll be on the ballot in November.
All right, any other candidates before we go to elected officials? All right, so elected officials, Representative Price.
Thank you. I'm State Representative Natalie Price. I represent House District 5. I live in Berkeley and come from Berkeley City Council. I was here last month too. Right now, Royal Oak, I represent just one precinct, a little north of Beaumont Hospital, the Beverly Hills Royal Oak Association. But as we've talked about, the lines have been redrawn and I will be picking up most of Royal Oak. So Sharon McDonald will keep her section. And then the rest of Royal Oak that currently Regina Weiss and Helena Scott represent are now drawn into my new district. So I am thrilled to be able to be here, to be learning and getting to know what issues matter to you, what you want me to be working for at the state now and in the future. Little update, since we last talked, we have had our new colleagues sworn in, so we're back up to the 56-54 majority in the State House. Yeah. No longer need any Republican votes to get things done, and it's amazing how they just start voting for very bipartisan common sense things when we don't need them to. It's beautiful. Whatever. We're getting things done again and it feels good. Budget time, we are passing out our House recommended budgets right now and to prepare them to go into conference with the Senate and the governor. I serve on a lot of the budget subcommittees, and some of the things that we're doing in the House that I'm really proud of, for instance, in higher ed, looking at the total cost of education and finding creative ways to help people who need help attend college and get help with housing, childcare, transportation in order to do that. I think we've got the boldest budget for that vision. We also are doing some really great work in terms of uplifting healthcare, making it accessible, affordable, investing in it in really bold ways. I think Dave Coulter talked about RIP medical debt. That was huge. We continue to push for that. And right now in my current district, half my district is Northwest Detroit, and 53% of my residents in that part of my district are renters. So I'm also doing a lot of work to prioritize and uplift renters. My big budget ask is 20 million ongoing, which would allow us to give the same tax credit to 100% disabled veterans who rent their homes as we currently give to 100% disabled veterans who own their homes. So again, I feel like this is just common sense. We've made this commitment. We need to do it right. We need to recognize renters as well. So those are some of the things I'm working on. You may also have seen me in the news. I've had more media interest in my recent bill on Woodward noise than all of my other legislation combined, but I'm here for it. I'm glad people are excited and out there talking. I am also, you might not see it as much, but very much being attacked from groups that don't live in my district. That's always nice. So when the hate mail comes in, we look up, where did they vote? Most of them don't vote, most of them don't live here, but their attacks are really brutal. So I'm also really grateful when I hear from folks in our district to say, hey, we recognize that modified exhausts are creating unreasonable excessive noise. It is harming our health and we want to uplift your legislation. So right now it's been referred to transportation in the House. I'm hopeful that we will get a hearing in the next month. And then we got to push for it in the Senate. Mallory McMurrow, our senator here, very supportive. But we got to get all of her colleagues on board as well to get it through the Senate and get it to the desk. Is there a question about noise on Woodward?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, in Bridge Magazine,
Yes.
they said 8,600 pounds, vehicles 8,600 pounds and greater, so most cars are less than 8,600 pounds, right?
So there are different decibel levels allowed for different weights of vehicles. So that you're getting really into the details, but this update, I guess I should give a background for people who haven't seen the news coverage. I'm sure there are a few. My proposed legislation will update the vehicle code so that it can be enforced as it was designed. Right now, it does say that you cannot modify your exhaust system and have it make excessive noise. It is illegal. Unfortunately, there is some language later on in the vehicle code where we talk about specific decibel levels that was intended to be applied for car manufacturers that has been interpreted as applying when police officers have pulled people over with excessive noise. So it hasn't been able to be upheld in court. So we are cleaning up that language. We're cleaning up the contradiction. We are keeping the specific decibel levels for the manufacturers. So for instance, one of the big pushbacks on this, motorcyclists have been showing up in my office. They are very vocal presence in Lansing. And they say, I need my motorcycle to be loud in order for it to be safe. And I believe them that that is a safety feature for motorcycles. And we, just like so many other things, we have determined safe levels, specific decibel levels when you buy your motorcycle from the manufacturer. That is safe and it is allowed, and we are not changing that. The issue is if you are intentionally modifying or having your motorcycle modified so that it creates louder sounds above what the vehicle code has deemed appropriate, loud and safe levels, that's when you're going to be facing fines. And the penalties we are proposing increasing. So right now it's a $100 fine for excessive noise, which our local law enforcement tells us it has not been enough of a deterrent for people who are spending thousands of dollars to intentionally modify their vehicles. We are increasing to $500 for the first offense, $1,000 for subsequent offenses, and we are making it waivable. So if people spend that $500 to make their vehicle compliant, they can go and show it before their court date and have it waived. So we are just making the code, we believe, better, easier to enforce. We are not targeting folks who have noisy vehicles because of due to neglect or inability to afford maintenance, and again, waivable, all fines waivable so that money can be spent for getting up to code. Not trying to attack, but encourage personal responsibility. So. I'm going over my 3 minutes. Very good. Okay. If you have any questions, Natalie Price, you can find me on your search engine, either legislatively or campaign. Please do stay in touch. Thank you.
I can get an update from the county commission. Oh, you want to come up here? Oh. Price is right here.
Thank you. I'm Penny Lewis. There's not much more to add after Dave Coulter spoke. The one item he didn't talk about is our new grant to senior centers. We contracted with OSHA to provide a grant so each community will be able to access more money for a senior chore program. So I know some cities do not have that program, so it will allow them to begin the program. And the cities that do have a chore program, it will allow them to expand the program for lawn cutting, for snow shoveling, for household item help. So we have 19 commissioners, 13 Democrats, 6 Republicans. We have 19 different opinions. So know that everything you can think of is addressed. We each have a different focus. We each have a different interest. And our goal is to support people. Now, the first question we had here was what would we like to represent as a symbol of our Democratic Party? And my first thought was an umbrella, Because in Umbrella, we cover, we support people, we help people, we keep people safe and out of the elements and out of the storm. But that's what we do as a board, and we work with each other. So that's the best part about it, is that we're comfortable with each other. We talk about different things and we work to support people who live in Oakland County. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Charlie Cavell, County Commissioner for part of Royal Oak. I guess since everyone said all the good stuff, just to say, as we're hearing all these folks kind of dig into the nuances of policy, or us having our internal Democrat debate over more of this or less of that or whatever, I think when we go out there and are knocking on doors, because we're all gonna knock on doors, right?
Yes.
Okay. That I think the big thing to think about is, one, we're interrupting people while they're like taking care of their kids or making dinner and stuff. So to give them the quick, like TLDR, like one-liner is, if I'm getting it right, Dave, tell me if I get it wrong, but it's basically us as Democrats, and tell me if I get this vibe wrong, but like what we are trying to do is make progress, right? Take a step forward. And what that means to people like us is that we want to help people lower their costs so that their quality of life can be raised. So framing everything from that, right? We're making childcare more affordable, right? We're making your wages higher so that then your costs are more manageable, right? We're trying to put DTE in line. We're making your healthcare costs go down, right? We're trying to lower your costs so that your quality of life goes up, right? In Oakland County, we're expanding parks, out of school time. So while we talk about all the other stuff, I think that's the big framing that at least I'm trying to make sure I focus on when talking to people is, you know, if you don't have time to hear the big 10-minute spiel about the nuances of the changes to the vehicle code, we're trying to lower your costs and make your life better.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
If we could have our city commission.
Good morning. I'm City Commissioner Charlene Douglas. I'm here with fellow Commissioner Brandon Colo. We didn't coordinate what we're going to talk about, so I'm talking first. Quick update, we reported at our last meeting that we had an interim city manager, our deputy city manager had been moved up to interim city manager. We are sad to see him go. He's taking a job in the private sector, but he's done a great job serving us in the interim and as our economic development director and then deputy for now 10 years. And I just, it hasn't been, it's not even on an agenda yet, but we are very close to finalizing an offer to an interim city manager. Someone with great seniority in communities across Southeast Michigan who has served as an interim manager in a number of communities very successfully. We're very confident that he's going to be able to come in and carry the ball while we conduct a search for a permanent city manager. You should probably read about that in the agenda for our next commission meeting. Quick note, it's May, and people are going to start asking us when we are going to mow the parks. I've been on the commission now for 11 years, so this is the 11th or 12th year that I've heard this. I always remind people Royal Oak was built on a swamp. Often, many of the properties that are parks because nobody was able to build there because it was so swampy. So if we have a dry May, we will be more successful at mowing more parks. But if we get a series of rainy days, there's nothing we can do. We send in mowers and they just tear up the lawn. Also, we rely on seasonal help. So we have students who come in and work for us during the summer. And so we will get the parks mowed in time. But if we don't, if the grass is a little shaggy in your neighborhood park, please bear with us.
Good morning. What a great day today. I mean, Oakland County came out. We had Dave Coulter. I love his vision for the county. He gave me a 40 out of 40, so I really like his vision for the county. It's pretty good. So we gotta make sure that we keep him in office this year, along with, 3 amazing county commission members. I think all of them have a primary. Not quite sure. I'm too worried about Dave Woodward not being our county commissioner in the future, but always got to worry about primaries. Executive Culture spoke a little bit about attainable housing. I can't say much about this, but I can tell you that the county is working with Royal Oak directly for a very nice project, which will cost a lot of money from the county because they're looking to getting people to stay and live in Royal Oak. They want to make sure not only Royal Oak, but the county, but luckily for us, it's Royal Oak. It's an amazing project that could really be beneficial to all of us. It just increased the vibrancy of this community. So, Executive Culture talks about communities that might poo-poo it, might not want attainable housing. We want it. We're open for business. Royal Oak wants attainable housing. We want everyone to be able to come live in Royal Oak.
Yes.
So it's been a long morning. I'm not going to bore you too much longer. I'm excited to work with Representative Chris. Wow, I cannot talk. We have a lot to do with noise on Woodward and making sure that this law is going to help us, give us the tools that we need to make sure that we can start issuing tickets. We are the motor city. That's never going to go away. There are some cool cars to see. It's fun to see some people cruise up and down the highway. It's a highway. It's an 8-lane highway in the middle of our community. But there's ways to do it right. So I'm excited to see where this goes in the future. So let's get this back to Mike and I'll get home.
All right, so before we wrap up, a few quick items of business. Number one, very excited next month, our guest speaker will be from Ruth Ellis Center, the LGT Center. So we're very excited about that. Our bar night's coming up Thursday, May 16th, and we're trying to be more supportive of Clawson and Northern Royal Oak. So we're going to be at the Brown Iron Brew House. We are marching in the Royal Oak Parade. We need nice faces and smiles, so please join us. I'll send out club details on that.
We take ugly faces.
We take any face we can get. In terms of the deadline for the youth scholarship, that is mid-May. If you know any senior from Royal Oak or Clawson, please have them apply. Deadline's coming up mid-May. And otherwise, we got a beautiful new union print sign out there. If you want to take a photo and tell your friends about the club, but otherwise, can I get a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Have a nice day. Bye. Thank you.